If you haven't already seen a Tesla Model 3 auto trunk review, I'd be surprised. They've been on the market for a while now, and a lot of YouTubers such as myself have been slowly but surely getting their hands on them. Now if you're here, then hopefully I can give you a slightly different perspective that you're looking for. The first thing you have to understand is there are two main competitors out there. The auto trunk I'm reviewing comes from a company called Hansshow, and there are three important factors that set it apart from the competition. Number one, Hansshow uses the 12-volt battery as a power source as opposed to the Canbus. Now the problem with using the Canbus is the trunk could stop working after a Tesla software update. And honestly, the chances of that happening are rare, but it's not out of the question. Now to be fair, if it does break, it can be repaired with a fix on a USB card that can be inserted in the control box. But the beauty is, Hansshow doesn't have to worry about that problem at all. Number two, the Hansshow automatic trunk can be opened and closed via the touchscreen monitor. Now if the trunk is using the Canbus as a power source, you will need to install another button near the driver's side door in order to close the trunk from the inside, minus the app of course. And number three, price. The Hansshow Power Trunk is only $500 compared to a $600 price tag elsewhere. And you can drop $50 off the price by using my discount code TESLAGUY, making it $150 cheaper. So let's jump right into the review and start with how it works. There are several different ways that you can open and close the trunk. Now the one we're all most familiar with is the button that opens up the trunk. But instead of having to lift it ourselves, of course the automatic trunk does it for you. Now there are two buttons that you can push to close it. The original one you used to open it, or the one that we installed right here, which is easier to see and reach, and that will close it for you. Now if your hands happen to be full, say you just got back from the grocery store or the store in general and you need to pack the trunk but your hands are full and you can't get to the button, there's an easy way to do it. All you have to do, swipe your foot underneath, you hear the button, you hear the beep that is, and it will open up automatically for you. Same thing goes for closing it. If you're taking things out of the trunk and your hands are full, you can very easily swipe your foot underneath and you will hear the beep twice, indicating that it is closing automatically. Now, of course, those are just two ways that you can open and close the trunk. There are a few others that we'll take a look at. Another way that you can open and close the trunk is through the key fob. But I don't have a key fob, so I can't display that for you here, but it is indicated that it can work with the key fob. Now another way that you can open it is with your phone, and you can use the native app. But what I don't like about the native app is you push the trunk and it will ask, are you sure you want to remotely open your trunk? You tap yes and it will open it for you. So it's a two-step process in the native app. Now once again, to close it, the car was not designed to have an automatic opening and closing trunk. So the app won't indicate if you want to close it. So when you tap it again, it'll say the action will remotely open your trunk. Obviously you want to close it, but you still tap yes and it will close. Now, as I mentioned, it's a two-step process to open and close it through the native app. However, if I go into the widgets and in Stats app, all I have to do is push it once. It opens it up. You can see it's all automatic. And then of course, all I have to do is tap that trunk button again, one more time, and it will close it automatically for you. So what I like about the Stats app is in the widgets section, you only have to tap the button once. You can also open and close the trunk automatically from the touch screen, and it's as simple as tapping the open button. Now it will show that it's open for a split second, but then show it closed once again. Now this is the only disadvantage that I can see by using the 12-volt battery as the power source, because since it's not connected to the Canbus, you will not be able to see if the trunk is open. So again, right now the trunk is open, but based on the screen here, it's showing that it's closed, and the same will be in the app. So since the Tesla Model 3 wasn't designed to have an automatic opening and closing trunk, the software won't indicate that either. So once again, the Tesla Model 3 right now thinks the trunk is closed. So the only way to close it at this point is by using the open button. And we tap that once again, and it will show again for a split second that the trunk has been opened, but now it's closed. And of course, now it is technically closed. Now, one of the things that some people have expressed concern about is the foot sensor, and will it open up while you're driving if it senses something? Well, first and foremost, one thing you must understand is that if you don't have your phone around the vicinity or the key fob around it, and it doesn't sense the phone or the key fob around it, no one can just go up to it and activate the foot sensor with their own foot, or a cat can't go underneath it if you're away from the car and open up the trunk. So that's the first thing you must kind of keep in mind here. Number two, we've tried this before in the test with both the frunk and the trunk, and as long as the car is in drive or even reverse for that matter, you are not going to be able to open the trunk or the frunk. So let's just kind of put it to the test. This is not the greatest test, but I've got my camera bag here, and it fits right underneath. In fact, it may just scrape the bottom of the car, and I've got it to right where the sensor is. So let's see if it'll sense the bag. So I'm gonna get in the car here. Okay, we'll put the car in reverse, and let's just back up over it here. I'm not gonna go too far, just so I can kind of feel it dragging a little bit. So it is just barely touching it. Nothing's happening. I don't see anything on the monitor here. Pull forward. Once again, we're in drive now, we're in park. And let's see. So you can see the bag right here. There's still a little dirt on there from having gone underneath the car. So really, again, this is probably not the best test, but it kind of gives you an idea that, again, if the car's in drive or reverse, the sensor is not going to open up the trunk. So earlier I talked about security, and can someone just out of nowhere use their foot and open up the trunk, or open up the trunk in general? And it's the security you'd expect to know from Tesla, right? If the Bluetooth is not detected and the car is locked, you can't open the door, you can't open the trunk, and you can't even use the foot sensor. So right now I'm going to show you that Bluetooth is on. Let's go ahead and flip this around. You see Bluetooth is on. Foot sensor indeed works. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off Bluetooth. You can see it right there. Bluetooth is now turned off. You can see it's white now. Okay, let's go back to the car. Bluetooth is off. I'll try the foot sensor. Lost my balance there. All right, there you go. All right, I keep swiping underneath. Nothing's working. Let's try the button. You hear that? I'm tapping the button. Nothing's opening. Let's try the doors. The doors won't even open. So again, because the Bluetooth is off, it's not going to work. So let me turn the Bluetooth back on. Bluetooth is now on, and it says Bluetooth connection enabled. So now that the Bluetooth is on, it detects my phone, it detects the Bluetooth. Let's try the foot sensor. There you have it. So it detects the Bluetooth, it detects the phone, it says, hey, the person who owns the car is here. You can use the foot sensor, you can use the button, you can even open your car. There you have it. So again, the concerns about someone just being able to come up and swipe their foot underneath, you don't have to worry about that, because it all works as to whether or not the Bluetooth is detected or not. All right, I am in a safe environment. There's nobody driving in this parking lot. It's not a very used parking lot. So I am moving at 6 miles per hour. What I'm gonna do is I am just gonna kind of go in this circle here, going 7 miles per hour. Go ahead and open it up, see what happens. All right, there's nothing, no warning on the screen or anything of that nature showing that it's up. Why don't you go ahead and try to open, there we go. All right, so he's there. You can kind of see right back there. See what he's done? He's kind of opening it up all the way. Be careful. All right, good. All right, so he's opened it up all the way, and let's say he's being kidnapped and he escaped. let's go ahead and I'm going to put this car and stop it. And right now it is in park. So now I have control. So let's see if it'll close. So you can see again, it's all the way open. After you open it, we were going about 5-7 miles an hour. Now I'm going to go ahead and see if it'll close. And indeed it closed. Now I'd like to talk a bit about safety. Will this thing stop if something gets in its way? So we're going to test it at different levels to see how it performs. So first we're going to start with something up fairly high. Let's say I'm kind of bent over and I'm over here and it hits my back. Let's see what happens. It comes down with just a little bit of force, but once it feels that resistance, it does actually give, as you saw, kind of backed up a little bit, say about an inch, to allow for me to kind of back myself up. All right, let's put this thing back up. And now I'm going to put my arm in here. We're going to see what happens with my arm and see if that hurts at all. Very little force. Now what I noticed as it got lower here, it stopped and stopped right where it was. It didn't kind of resist and move back up an inch or two like it did up higher. But I can very easily take my arm out, and it actually kind of closed a little bit and is trying to latch on. So let's go and put this back up. Go ahead and get that closed. All right, let's go ahead and open this thing back up. And what I'm going to do now with my arm, take my arm and put my hand in there. Let's say there's a child's hand in there. We'll see what happens. So it had reached a point, right at that point where just right above my hand, you'll notice on the soft closing trunk, on the closing trunk itself, we showed you the different levels at which how hard it will close. At a certain point, it's closing and then it reaches a point where it wants to just kind of slam down. So just right above where my hand was, or is, it reached that point and wanted to slam down. But since I have it at the softest closing setting, it didn't really hurt that much. But if I had it at the hardest setting, I'm sure it would hurt, because it really does, and you saw that in the settings, it really does slam down pretty hard in the end. And that would definitely hurt an adult, and especially a child. So the bottom line is this: the safety features are there, but really when it comes to children, you really just need to make sure that they're not around and that their hands, their fingers aren't anywhere around the trunk when it's closing. One of the things I wanted to touch on was the strength at which the tailgate will close. A lot of people touch on the speed at which it will open and close, but not the actual strength. It's got to latch on to this latch here, and if it doesn't do that, then you've got to adjust that strength. Now, it just depends on your car and what setting you're going to need. Some won't close at the softest setting, but you're going to have to maybe get it at a harder close. Now, mine, I've tried all of the settings, and I am noticing that it will close at all settings. But again, it just depends on your car. So if it doesn't close on the first try, you may need to experiment and try some different settings. So let's get into that and show you how it's done. So there are two things that you are going to need in order to adjust the strength at which the tailgate closes. Number one, a screwdriver, and what you're going to need to do is put it in here to mimic the fact that it has closed. So the box will know to go into that setting mode. You're also going to need an even smaller screwdriver, one that will fit into the pinhole button. Now, I'm not going to be able to show you in this video, but I will show you an image of the box and where that pinhole button is that you're going to need to press. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this kind of set up for you, and then because it's ideal for you to do this before the box is kind of set back in here, because it's going to be hard for me to get back in here to adjust the settings, I recommend that you do this before you kind of wrap everything up. I recommend that you adjust the setting that you're going to need before you put this back in here. All right, so my back is to you. I apologize, but this is what we're going to do. I'm doing the latch. You'll hear a motor move, you'll hear a beep as well. Now I'm going to push that button, that pinhole button I was talking about. I'm just holding it down. We'll start to hear a series of beeps. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We won't hear any more after that. So now it's set for the fastest or the hardest set closing. So let's go ahead and give that a shot and see what happens. Taking my finger off the button, I'm going to go ahead and before we do that, we have to use the emergency latch to open it back up, okay? So now I'm going to push the button. So you can't use this button. You're going to actually use the button latch right here, and that will close it for you. Now, you see how hard that closed? Again, sometimes it's going to need that to really latch on. In many cases, you won't need it to close that hard, but that is the hardest closing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open this back up for you, and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did, and we're going to show you the softest setting to kind of show you the different examples. So once again, my back's too sorry. I'm going to go ahead and use the screwdriver to push the latch in. You hear the beep? So I go ahead and push down. There's the one beep. That is when I take my finger off the button or take this off the button. Now we're going to show you from the hardest closing set to the softest closing set. So again, we need to unlatch or use the emergency release to now unlatch it. We got that. We can't use this yet. We'll go ahead and use this button here. So now it's going to close. You can see it barely closed here. Now mine did latch on. I'm lifting up and it is latched on. It's not a problem. But again, keep in mind there are some cars where this soft close setting will not work, and you'll need to kind of play with how hard this will close between the 1 and 5 beeps. So again, I just wanted to show you an example of one, which we just showed you, and the hardest, which I showed you before this one. And you can play with the ones in between that and which one works best for you. As I mentioned, all 4 of the settings work for me, or all 5 of the settings really, work for me from softest to hardest. And for me, I like the soft one, and that's the one I prefer. But again, if it doesn't work for you, then you'll have to maybe go up to 2 or 3. Now, Hansshow recommends somewhere around 3 or 4 for most cars. But again, if it works for you, then it's all a matter of personal preferences. All right, so we've gone over the strength at which the hatchback or at which the tailgate will close. Now we're going to go over the speed at which it will open and close. And there are several different settings in there as well. So the first thing you do is you hold this close button right here. Just going to hold it down. You'll hear one long beep. Now it's going into the setting. 2 beeps is the slowest. 3 beeps, the next one up. Now we got 4. We got 5. And it goes up to 6. So we've got the 6th setting in there. This is the fastest it will open and close. So let's take a look at how fast that is. All right. Now we'll take a look at it opening up. Okay. So nice and fast. So that's the fastest setting. Now we're going to go ahead and show you the slowest setting and take a look at that. So once again, same process. You push the button down, you hold it down until you hear a long beep. There it is. Now it's going into the settings. 1, 2. You let go. This is the slowest. I'm going to go ahead and push the button. And you can see just how slow it is closing. Very slow. Annoyingly slow, quite honestly. All right, we're latched in there. Everything is okay. Let's go ahead and open it up and see how slow this will open up. All right, so we can see just how slow that is. It hasn't even finished here. And we are open now. All right, so again, you can just play with those settings. Very easy. You can do it on a regular basis. If you want it to go faster sometimes, you want to go slower. It's a very simple process that you can do by using this button right here. Now the next thing we're going to take a look at is some people may be vertically challenged. I personally like to have this open up all the way. I'm nice and tall, but there are some people who may need this to open a little bit lower. And that's actually quite easy to do. Now one thing I want to point out is that to set it, you're going to need to pull this down in order to make that happen. But I want to show you something to kind of show that you need to do it slowly. See how it's caught? I did it too fast, and that activated it closing. So we're going to let that go ahead and close. All right, I'm going to open it back up. So again, I want to show you how to make the setting to make it open and then stop at a lower setting here, all right? So you need to do it very slowly so you don't activate it to close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly just kind of pull it down to where I need to. Let's bring it down nice and low. I'm just going to, again, you have to do this slowly. I don't want to activate it to close. So let's bring it down nice and low. All right, let's say that's the setting we want. Now to set it, it's very simple. You hold this down until you hear that long beep. Once you hear that long beep, you let go, and now it's going to open at this setting right here. So let's go ahead and close it. I still got it on the slow setting, so I apologize for, hold on, this is taking. There we go. It's closed, fully closed. Let's open it up. And there it stopped at the lower setting. So again, if you're vertically challenged, this is perfect for you. Let's say I'm this much shorter, right? It's going to be easier for me to push the button or this button right here. So again, this is how you set how high this is going to open and close. I'm going to set it back up for me here. I want to set it up higher. Again, just push the button, hold it down until I hear the long beep. I let go, and now it's set at this highest setting. So let's go ahead and close this up. Again, it's kind of at the slowest setting right now, so it's going to take a while to close here, but we'll get it. There it is. It's closed, it's latched up. We'll go ahead and open it up now. Open it up. It's going to open all the way up for you. And again, this is something you can do on a regular basis. If you need to you have it open up at a lower setting for that day, you can very easily do that. So that's what's the convenient part of this, is this right here. It's easy for you to adjust all those settings that you're going to need on a regular basis. I've had the auto trunk for over a week now, and I have to say that I absolutely love it. What's interesting is it feels like this should have always been included in the car. I mean, here you have one of the most sophisticated cars on the road today, and something as simple as a power trunk is not included. So as a frugal Tesla guy, I've got to ask the question, is it worth the money? Now, as I said with the power Frunk, if you have the money, absolutely. I think Hansshow has done a great job in seamlessly incorporating the auto trunk into the car. As I mentioned earlier, the only thing that stands out that's not original to Tesla is the fact that the app and center screen don't know if the trunk is open or closed. The installed button on the back looks OEM, and you can't even see the foot sensor. Now, a lot of you might be saying, this is all great, but I don't have an extra $900 to spare for an auto Frunk and trunk. And trust me, I completely understand. And quite honestly, I would have to choose between the two if I had to pay for all of this myself. So that's the next question. If I only had the money for one, which would it be? And minus the extra $45 for the trunk foot sensor, they both cost the same. Now, from a functionality standpoint, I would have to say the trunk hands down. I use the trunk much more often simply because it has a lot more room. Now that being said, I am less hesitant to use the Frunk now that it's so much easier to open and close, but typically doesn't have the space the trunk has. From an installation standpoint, the Frunk, because it's a lot easier to install. After watching both get installed, I feel pretty confident I would be able to install the Frunk without any problems. The trunk, on the other hand, looks like it requires a lot more skill. You have to take off the tail lights, a lot of the trim, run a wire to the front of the car, and the list goes on and on. Now, to see what I'm talking about, I have posted detailed videos of the installation process on this channel, and I'll be sure to post a link to that in the description below. So let's talk cost. The Frunk is $500. The trunk is also $500, and the foot sensor for the trunk is an extra $50. But if you use my discount code TESLAGUY, you will get a 10% discount, making them $450 each, and the foot sensor $45. If you want them professionally installed, the trunk will cost $300 and the Frunk $200. Now, the reason the trunk costs $100 extra is because it does take more time and is more complicated to install. Now, I'll be sure to put a list of the available cities in the description below. If your city is on the list, you can contact Hansshow to get you in touch with an installer in your area. Well, that's it for now. If you like this video, be sure to click the thumbs up button. And if you would like to support this channel, click the subscription button if you haven't done so already. And as always, thank you for watching, and until my next video, stay positively charged.